And you get a productive outcome when everyone is motivated and engaged.
And all the business leaders in the world should absolutely love that answer, because that is one of the challenges that I've heard with them. And it's a fake challenge, to be honest, but is that I'm too busy focused on the company and the tasks we need to do. I can't focus on another, DEI or anything like that. But just to reiterate in a different way, what you're saying is that, in fact, if you do pay attention to that, you will subsequently enhance your results.
Yes. It's interesting because ever so often you'll see a company who will say, our employees are number one. Our employees are number one asset. And then you ask the question, well, what do you do for your employees? That employees would say that you're treating them as though they're the number one asset.
Yeah, I think there's a lot tied to income. And at the end of the day, obviously, that is very important. But when you ask a person if they're happy with their job, that's not what you're going to think of. They may be happy with their paycheck, but are you happy with your job? It's a different question.
Well, it's a very important question because we're missing something that's extremely important. And again, some of the work done by Gallup, the relationship between being recognized and valued at work and one's sense of well-being, not just at work, but also outside of work and in the home. One of the most, for me, eye-opening studies, it was done by Boston University. It was released around March of this year. Dr. Sheehy and her group had followed 20,000, I want to be sure I get the number correct, 20,000 Black women over 20 years. And they found the following. Those women who complained of suffering racism, discrimination at work or in interactions with the police had 26% higher incidences of coronary artery disease than those who did not. And one of the things we actually do miss is how the stresses at work affect well-being and how that translates into life outside of work.
Oh yeah, it's huge. We spend so much time at work, and
Yes.
it cannot be discounted, the impact that a stressful work environment has. Thinking about this, and going back a little bit to what I mentioned about how when I started doing my own work and learning things, I notice a lot now. I notice things that people don't even say they notice. But again, that's because I've done the work. So how do you have thoughts on how we can help other people start to notice things that aren't affecting them?
One of the things is very interesting, and I don't recall, who said it, but the general feeling or the general statement is that if you tell me something, I might remember it. If you show me it, I'll probably remember more of it. But if you have me do it, I will remember a lot of it. And in fact, my second book is being republished. It was recommended to me, and I absolutely agree, because that's what the book is about, that I should change the title. And the present title is Addressing Systemic Discrimination by Reframing the Problem. The new title is Until You Walk in My Shoes, with a subtitle, A Reframing Methodology to Overcome Discrimination. Now, the reason that is important is that, as a matter of fact, in the very first chapter, it's about walking in someone else's shoes. And the reframing process is also about walking in someone else's shoes. And one of the ways, one of my concerns, if you like, that we are not going far enough, and DEI is doing a wonderful job in raising awareness, etc., is that until people walk in someone else's shoes, they tend not to get the real ahas. So the reframing process does a couple of things. One, it ensures that the individual is heard, because this is one of the problems. When someone is aggrieved, they complain, and often they feel they're not being heard. And it's not that people aren't listening to their complaints, it's that they're not hearing it, they don't understand it. So we've set up a process in which an aggrieved individual, in a very brief one page, most 2 pages, can describe, starting with what is the outcome that they desire, what is the environment like that they're in, what is their situation, and what do they see as the problem. And we have them describe it in bullets so that they get a chance to step back a bit from the emotion. And you're too young to know this show probably, but you might have seen it. There used to be a detective show, and the Detective Friday would say, "Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts." So to get individuals, as much as possible, just give the facts. But then what we do is we look at that and we ask 2 sets of questions. One set is, what are the issues around equity here? What are the issues around inclusion? And then we plot an equity inclusion culture matrix. And based on that, we try to identify where's that individual in that matrix. And given that, we then say, okay, what is a better problem to solve in order to get to the desired outcome? Now, if managers or others participate in this part of the exercise, where they pull out the examples of equity, pull out the examples of inclusion, and they put it in the matrix, and then ask that question, what's a better problem to solve to get to the outcome? By doing that, they would have sort of walked in the shoes of the aggrieved individual. And once you have the better problem to solve, then we reframe the original problem statement.
First of all, I love the new name of the book too. I think it's
well, thank you.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
In fact, what I should add, what is a better problem to solve? Well, one of the characteristics of a better problem to solve, it's a problem whose solution not only gets the aggrieved individual their desired outcome, but also provides benefit to the co-workers. That's a better problem to solve. So that you're not only improving your lot, but you're improving the culture, the environment that you're working in. That conversation is an easier one to have with a manager than the conversation which says, I'm being discriminated against, and here are the reasons why. The conversation is, were we to do the following, I think this would improve productivity in our group, will increase motivation and engagement. And as a matter of fact, it would improve my own engagement because it would address a problem that I'm having.
So I'm getting this imagery of it being, rather than a Band-Aid, it's a holistic tonic that is going to provide a multitude of solutions that maybe weren't even being considered before.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, this discussion of trying to find a better problem to solve helps that particular group to start thinking outside of the box and coming up with solutions that they would not normally have thought of.
Well, on the topic of solutions, you are the CEO of Safe Haven Dialogues, yes. And I'm curious, from your seat at this table, what is your vision for that organization and for others moving forward?
Our vision for Safe Haven Dialogues is that we bring the reframing process to as many individuals as possible. We think any individual in a work situation who is in a conflicted situation, be it based on discrimination, invariably conflict has to do invariably with conscious and unconscious biases lack of understanding of the other individual, lack of understanding of what the environment requires or what is in the environment that is impeding progress. So the process helps to do that. So that is our mission, to really bring the reframing process to as many organizations as possible and to as many individuals as possible, so that they begin to feel empowered and also, as a result, improve their own well-being.
Yes, empowered. I love that. I think that's so important for especially anybody that's been marginalized. It's so important to feel empowered and stop letting someone else's bias or negative opinion that is based in nothing dictate, your position in the world. Um, all right. So are you ready for the final 3 questions?
Yes?
Okay. So the first one is I always ask all the guests to share with us an action item. So we want to talk about and uncover situations and experiences, but obviously we want to be action oriented, which obviously you are. So what is one small thing that everyone doing or that everyone listening can start taking action on today?
Start thinking and attempting to walk in the shoes of the other individual.
I love that. And then what are 5 words that in your current phase of life you connect with personally, you think are important?
Well, as I mentioned at the very beginning, I really think these 2 words actually capture the essence of organizations, regardless of what they are, including the family. Equity, inclusion. My 3rd word is reframing, because I think that helps to resolve conflicts. My 4th word, wouldn't surprise you, is courage. And my 5th word is well-being, because at the end of the day, and as you mentioned, we spend so much time at work and thinking about work. The impact on our well-being is very important. We need to pay attention to it.
Absolutely. Where can everybody go to find Dr. Frank, get your books, connect with you, and stay in touch?
Okay, the book is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. As I mentioned, the present book is addressing systemic discrimination by reframing the problem. We expect by the end of this month, actually, the new version, Until You Walk in My Shoes, is the title. The subtitle is A Reframing Methodology to Overcome Discrimination. They will be available on Barnes and Noble and Amazon. You can also get it from our website, which is safehavendialogues-llc.com. safehavendialogues-llc.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing. You told us so much about your story and your experience, which I really appreciate, first of all, and also the fact that you're still out here creating and trying to make change. As you mentioned at the beginning of the show, 60 years in, you're still going at it with the purpose of helping forward us in the world. I appreciate it.
Well, we are all here to contribute.
Yes.
And I am just so happy that I'm privileged to be able to contribute some